Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the premier radio networks, including a whole bunch of new stations, which we've put on our website, techguylabs.com/stations. I think it's about 170 stations now, including XM channel 166. On Saturday, September 24th, 2011, this is episode 807. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Hover.com. Hover is domain name registration and management that's simple. Upgrade to a premium domain and trade in your old clunkers. Visit techguy.hover.com. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And, sorry, time to talk tech. There's no way around it. This is it. This is the show where we talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, all that jazz. If you want to join me, if you got a question, maybe you heard a phrase that you're wondering about, you'd like to know more about a piece of hardware, software, just want a little hand-holding on the information superhighway. That's what my job is here. Yes, indeed. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. 888-827-5536. Boy, I said that fast, didn't I? I hope you weren't trying to write that down. Write this down. techguylabs.com. That's the website. And there you will find not only the phone number, which I'll say again in a second, but you'll also find a link to the chat room. You'll find show notes. 807 shows so far. All of them there, including audio for most of them. techguylabs.com. Now, the phone number, once again, it's easy to remember. 8888. Like a piano keyboard, right? 8888 Ask Leo. Yeah, that wasn't so hard. 8888 Ask Leo. If you're outside the U.S., that's toll free in the U.S., but you're outside the U.S., you can call using Skype out or some sort of VoIP solution. And since it's a toll-free number in the U.S., I think that usually means it's free to you, no matter where you are in the world. You know what the term pivot means? It's from the French. No, it isn't. I don't know what it's from. Pivoti. It is when, you pivot. You pick a point. In a lever, a pivot would be the center point of the lever that the lever, pivots around, moves around. In the tech industry, a pivot means a sudden change in your business model and your way of doing business. It's a very elegant, if you think about it. Pivot is in terms of footwork, a basketball player pivots on one foot. It's a very elegant move. And then in the tech industry, pivots can actually be quite elegant. Some might say, "Oh, that's an admission of failure." A company, I'll give you an example. A company called Seismic, run by a friend of mine, a very nice guy named Loic Lemur. Seismic started out as doing a video for the internet. You'd go on there, you record it, and it would go on Twitter. It turned out nobody wanted that. No. There's no business there. So Loic he's a Frenchman, he made a very elegant pivot. And he took Seismic from being a company that lets you put video on Twitter to a company that makes some great software for Twitter clients. The Seismic clients. But then Twitter started kind of messing around with a third-party client, saying, we want it all to come through us. So Loic pivoted again. These Frenchmen, they're wily. And now he's doing kind of social CRM, business-to-business tweeting or something. I don't know. I'll have to ask Loic. He explains it to me, but his accent is strong. Nevertheless, the pivot is a time-honored tradition in technology. Many companies have pivoted. Most of the time, it's an acknowledgement that, whoops, we made a mistake. We didn't pick the right business model. Our business plan isn't working, so it's time to pivot. Flickr is a classic pivot. Flickr, believe it or not, the photo sharing site started as a gaming site. PayPal started life as a way to beam money from PDA to PDA. It's good they got out of that business. It was originally called Confinity. Nokia was a paper mill company in Finland until they discovered cell phones. It goes on and on and on. Twitter itself was a pivot. The founder of Twitter, Ev Williams, had started a company called Odeo that was all about podcasts, making it easy to podcast. Boy, that took off. He went to his employees and said, "This isn't going to go anywhere. You got any other ideas?" And one of them did. Jack Dorsey said, "Well, I got this thing I've been working on where people could kind of text message each other, and it would be on the web, and it doesn't have a name, and Twitter was born." Why am I talking about pivots? Actually, somebody in the chat room has already figured it out, because we may have just seen the largest pivot in the history of technology this week with a little company known as Facebook. This, my friends, it may not be immediately obvious, is a massive pivot, and very, very, very risky. Very, very, very risky, but very intriguing, too, if you're the kind of person who likes to sit back and watch companies strategize. Facebook, we all know, started out as a simple idea. A free site where I'll put my personal information so that others may find me, maybe old friends, college roommates, girls who like my looks and want to know more, or guys, more likely guys who like girls' looks and want to know more. They would go to the Facebook, look them up, and then say, "Hey, you want to be my friend?" It is a way to gather a group of friends socially online. Friends, family, and maybe coworkers, people you know in real life. And the promise of Facebook when it first started was what you put there is private. Only the people that you say, "Yeah, you're my friend," can see it. And that was very powerful, because we wouldn't have put all that information about age, weight, and marital status online unless we knew that, well, we would control who would see it. Nobody wanted to put up a page that said it's complicated to the public, at the time anyway. So Facebook, this is one of the reasons Facebook won over MySpace. MySpace profiles, if you remember, were by default public. You could make them private, but they started public. And I think this is one of the main reasons people went, I'm going to go with a Facebook. It seems much more private. Well, and by the way, there's a perfectly good business model around that. Facebook could easily make plenty of money around that by selling that personal information to advertisers anonymously. They're not giving away your personal information, but just by making sure that the ads, just as Google does, that the ads that you see on your Facebook page are contextual. They relate to what you've said about yourself on the Facebook page. And they can go to advertisers and say, "We can give you 30,000 males 25 to 45 who are dentists. Would you like them?" And, some companies would say, yeah, that's who I want to talk to. I'm Crest Toothpaste. I'd like to talk to those dentists. They don't reveal anybody's personal information to Crest, but it's a great ad sale. It's really good. They can count how many people saw the ads. It's a very good business model. So this pivot did not come because the business model was wrong. But there is a pivot indeed, because maybe you've noticed it. Maybe you haven't. But Facebook has gone from being a very private space of your own, slowly, incrementally pushing you to being more and more public, right? And in fact, that transition was completed this week with Facebook's developer conference, F8. Thursday morning, Mark Zuckerberg took the stage and talked a little bit about the new Facebook, the new profiles. You could see those at facebook.com/profiles. The new timeline, facebook.com/timeline. Those will be rolled out to your Facebook page sooner or later, probably sooner. They also, before that developers conference, added subscribe buttons, changed like so that it could be other verbs, watched, read, many other verbs. And why would that matter? Well, it certainly could still be done only to people you know, your most intimate circle. Leo liked Breaking Bad. Leo read The Three Musketeers. That might be only to your circle, but really, Facebook wants it to be public. And that's the pivot. And already, the hounds are out. Talking more about it in just a bit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You know about Hover. Hover is the domain registrar. Just between us kids, I'm not so fond of some of these other domain registry companies. I'm a big fan of Hover because it's very clean, it's very simple, and they don't try to upsell you. They don't have sexy girls, I'm sorry, on the front page. It's just domain registration. Clean, simple, and easy, and I'm really a fan. Hover is owned by the folks at Two Cows. You may remember Two Cows. They used to do that software. It was originally called the unofficial TUC, the unofficial something of Windows something. What did Two Cows used to stand for? I can't remember. They created a domain registrar among their other businesses called Domains Direct. You remember that? The unofficial compendium of Windows. I can't remember. Anyway, if you go to hover.com right now, take a look at it. You will see a fantastic site that is just designed to make it so easy for you to get a domain name. We were looking at a new name for a show, and I, of course, immediately go to Hover. I type in a domain name, and it does a search. Now, by the way, you might want a domain name for a web page, but you also might want it for your personal email, your lastname.com. I highly recommend that. Hover does not do hosting. They will do email forwarding. They will do domain forwarding. It's very simple. But so they're searching right now. I'm not sure what's so slow. You're all going to Hover, aren't you? I could tell you are. If you go, everybody's going to Hover. It's not normally this slow. Trust me, kids. If you go to Hover and search for a domain name now, the new domain names. Is this our internet or is this Hover? This must be our internet. I had this problem the other day. There we go. I think it's our. I think our internet is stuttering. There you go. So I'm looking for rk8.com. Not available. rk8.co is available. Look at this. Here's RKDR. This is what's called a premium domain. Now, somebody owns this domain, so normally this wouldn't show up in a search, but they are willing to sell it, and here's the price. So you can actually look at, this is kind of nice, especially for somebody like me, because if I go and contact somebody and say I want a domain name, they're going to jack the price up. So this is kind of an anonymous domain marketplace as well. Anyway, that's premium domains. They also do this thing called clunker domains. If you registered a domain, look at all the domains I've registered. If you registered a domain that you're not using, and let me just check the music, and you've never used it, they will refund your money and transfer it to another domain name and refund your money, including all of your Hover fees and everything. The clunker domain refund I really like. They also have domain name concierge service. They will transfer all your names over. If you want to know more, go to hover.com. If you decide you want to get a domain name on checkout, use TechGuy as the offer code. You will get how much? 10% off? I think 10% off. It doesn't say here. The domain registration. Yeah. Use the offer code TechGuy for this show. Hover.com/TechGuy. It is really the best way to register your domain. It's what I use now all the time. All right, back to the show.
We've been working on it all year, and we're calling it Timeline.
Yeah. I love it. You know, one of the things you can do now with the new Facebook, and I really like this, they've got this ticker, right, on the right-hand side of your page. And when you listen to a song on, you've got to have the app installed. I use Spotify, but RDO, Mog, a variety of music services. If you listen to the song, it will show it up in the ticker, and then your friends can see. So somebody's listening to, my friend Michael Sean Wright's listening to Buddy Miller on Spotify. I can click it, and I can actually play it through my Spotify account. So it's a great way to kind of share music together with friends. And this is from the Facebook page. I think Buddy Miller's playing. Let me stop that right now before. I like that. So you see, my friend Michael has very good taste in music. This is the risk that Facebook has gone through, though, is that, and you already probably have noticed this if you go to a Facebook page, and I hear the howls of pain from a lot of people. It went from being a very simple site for people who are not necessarily highly sophisticated technology users, just want to go there, see what mom did, see what my friend did, want to share pictures of the kids. That's all. Keep it simple. Keep it clean. Keep it private. And Facebook made a pivot. For reasons, we can never really know. It's not for reasons of making money. They're doing just fine, thank you. 750 million users. They're making plenty of money. I don't think it's for reasons of making money. I think it's because they kind of wanted to reinvent themselves. I think it's because, and this is what happens sometimes in tech, when you have one guy who's kind of the founder, Mark Zuckerberg, really, he's in charge still. And I think he said, I want to try something else. This private thing I don't like so much. Look at Twitter. Isn't that cool? I want to be like that. I want to be public. I want to make it possible for people on Facebook to share what they're doing with not just their friends, but anybody who wants to know. So they added a subscribe button. If you go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/LeoG.Laporte. I had to put my middle initial because somebody else has the other one. Facebook.com/LeoG.Laporte. There's a subscribe button. And now you will get even though you may not be my friend, I don't even have to approve you. You don't have to know who I am. You just subscribe to me, and now my updates, my public updates will go to you. Yeah, there's a way to make updates only go to friends and family, only go to, you have, the problem with that is it gets very complicated very quickly, doesn't it? And this is, I think, the real risk that Facebook's running into, and probably some of the pushback. People always don't like it when things change. So that's part of the pushback is it's changed. I don't like it. But there is a very reasonable reason to not like this. It's more complicated. And if people just say, look, I just want to share pictures of the kids. I don't want to have to decide if everything I share is public, friends, or custom, or it goes to people I work with, people I know, people I went to school with. It's just gotten so much more complicated. And I think this, frankly, is the problem Facebook's running up against here. The people who are Facebook fans, for the most part, are not sophisticated users. They're people who aren't really computer enthusiasts. They just want to hang out with their friends and family, see what they're up to, see the pictures of the kids. And Facebook has said, no, they've kind of fallen into a trap, I think. It's a Silicon Valley trap. It's unique to Silicon Valley, where they want to be cool and hip to their Silicon Valley friends. And I think that's what happened. I think Mark Zuckerberg was not satisfied. He said, I don't want to be another Classmates.com. I want something bigger, better. It wasn't enough that 500 million people checked into their Facebook page for the first time ever this month. 500 million people in one day. Amazing number. That means he's got a very large, very happy clientele. And, if you ask me, when you got a business where 500 million people use that business in one day and are happy with it, it seems to me a little bit crazy and reckless to change it drastically. Mark, you won. You won, Mark. Who cares what the hipsters in Silicon Valley think? You got 500 million people to use your site in one day. I don't know if it's the Silicon Valley paranoia, where you got to keep moving. You're like a shark. If you don't change constantly, they'll catch up with you. I'm not sure why. But Facebook, even in the face of amazing success, has decided to completely change what they look like, how they work, and most importantly, I think, for you and me, made themselves so much more complicated that's just not fun. What do you think? That's what I propose, that Facebook has taken the fun out of Facebook, and that maybe they made a huge mistake. What do you think? 8888 Ask Leo. 888-827-5536. Maybe Facebook felt if we don't change, we'll be irrelevant. I don't know. When you have 500 million people use your site in one day, that's never happened before in history. 500 million people, 1/12 of the entire world's population in one day. Seems to me you're doing all right. Don't change. Whatever you do, don't change that. And yet they are about to pivot. They are about to make the biggest change they've ever made. Completely change how they look, how they work, the privacy settings. Everything is about to change. Wow. I got to say one thing. Mark Zuckerberg has guts. He sure does. Ann in San Diego, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Ann. Leo Laporte here.
Hi, can you hear me, Leo? I got all the static there.
Yeah, that's when I push the pickup button. It goes.
God.
I know. I apologize. Technology. It's not how I would have designed it, but apparently that's how
it works.
That's how it works.
To be sure you were there, Leo. I got notice from my credit union yesterday that they had kicked out 12 charges because they appeared to be bogus, and in fact, most of them were. So obviously, my credit card or my debit card had gotten picked up.
Yeah.
I've got Nod 32. I keep Windows updated. I try to do everything you say because it seems to work. And I'm wondering what else I can do to protect myself.
Do you ever use that credit card at a restaurant?
Yep, I did, in fact.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I got to point something out. People really worry about the online risks. Oh, I'm going to make sure I do all the... You give that credit card to some stranger at a restaurant who then wanders back and brings it back a couple of minutes later.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? Credit cards are inherently risky. This, by the way, is why your credit union and every credit card company now are very aggressive about checking charges.
Oh, I was delighted. I mean,
it's great. You want them to do this, but
one had gotten through, and I got that reversed.
Yeah, they by law they have to. I think that the banking laws are pretty stiff about this kind of thing. Credit cards are kind of inherently dangerous. It's not. People pay attention to the online thing. Online is probably more secure. When you're buying something from Amazon, it's an encrypted, secure transaction.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's safe. When you give your credit card to a waiter, it is neither encrypted nor secure.
Good point.
That guy, some stranger just took your credit card back for 5 minutes and then comes back and said, here's your bill. You don't know what's.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's really, if you're going to use credit cards, there's no defense.
There is no defense. There are, if you're worried about online, which I don't think you really need to worry about, but if you're going to a shady site, most credit card companies will make a one-time only number for you. Check with, your credit card company that you can use only once. But truthfully, best thing to do, watch your statement and just keep an eye on it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Changes. I probably should mention this. Talking about the Facebook changes, and I know there's been a hue and cry already. I'm watching CNN. It was like the top story on CNN. 750 million Facebook users cry out in horror. Well, make it 749,999 because I actually like it. Actually, I think I missed a few zeros there. And I think that this is the thing that is what's really happening with Facebook is they've been lost inside the bubble of Silicon Valley. They're making changes that will absolutely appeal to people in Silicon Valley, people who love Twitter and Google+. In fact, maybe this is even a response to Google+ and a response to the fear that Google+ is going to steal their users. If Mark had come to me and said, hey, Leo, I want to make these changes. What do you think? I would have said, hey, Mark, love them. Beautiful. Fantastic. And you're insane. Do not touch a thing. Do not change a thing. Make it less complicated, not more complicated. One of the reasons so many people use Twitter is because it's simple. 140 characters, boom, that's it. Boom, you're done. Facebook inherently is more complicated. I just read a stat that blew me away. 4% of all pictures ever taken are stored on Facebook. Not 4% of all the pictures taken today or this year. Not 4% of all the digital pictures ever taken. 4% of all the pictures ever taken in the history of humankind, 4% are on Facebook. This is a success of unimaginable size. Why would you change it? Why? Make it simpler. Make it easier. Keep it private so it doesn't make people nervous. Why would you risk making people nervous? Now, I think the only reason you're not going to see a mass exodus is because there's nowhere else to go. If there were the reason people left MySpace and went to Facebook is because there was a Facebook. And it was private, and it was clean, and it was simple. MySpace was jangly and confusing and loud and public. So people said, this is better. It's private, it's simple, it's clean. So what do? They MySpaceify it. And the only thing keeping people from leaving in mass droves to something else is there isn't anything else right now. What an opportunity for somebody. I think that's what Google thought. But the problem is Google made something that is, guess what? Something that appeals to people in Silicon Valley. They made another. They don't live in the real world. They live in tech. It's a big problem. Larry doesn't. He lives in Arkansas. Hi, Larry. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. I have an iPhone and a laptop with iTunes on it, and I bought my wife an iPhone, and I hooked it up to my laptop so it could sync up, and get the latest updates and everything. And then about a week later, got her a laptop and put iTunes on it and synced it up, and everything was working fine. I was out on the road. I come back in, and every app that I had downloaded, it tried to now download it onto her phone just because I was in proximity to her.
No, it's not actually. It's a checkbox, which you should uncheck. If you go into your iPhone in the settings, I can't remember exactly where it is, but look around. There's 3 checkboxes that say download new music, download new apps, and then I can't remember what the third one is. You want it will. This is something new, by the way, something they added in the last few iterations of the iPhone software. It if you guys are in the same account, which obviously you are.
Yeah.
Because that way she gets your apps. It will, anytime you buy an app, it shows up on her iPhone. Any app that she doesn't have shows up on her iPhone. But that's a setting you can turn off.
Yeah, and now, when she tried to download music, it wouldn't let her use her password. It wanted my password.
Right. So you have a choice. You can either...
trying to steal music.
No, well, that's the choice. And what I would suggest is that she use your password. Have one. There's 2 ways to go about this. If you all have the same account, then all the music you buy can be on her phone and your phone. You're limited to 5 computer devices, but an unlimited number of portable devices, iPods and iPhones.
Okay.
So if you all are on the same account, you'll have to give her your music password. She can use your music. She can use your apps. You can't go half and half. You can't say, I'm going to use this for music and this for app. No, because it's the same iTunes account. If she has her own account, then she has to buy her own darn music and her own darn apps. And she can't share yours.
She wants mine and she wants hers.
Yeah. Well.
Hey, something else, Leo. When you download an app, sometimes it comes up and says, "Oh, it's over 20 megabytes. You got to stop and hook up to your computer and stuff."
You don't have to hook up to your computer, but you have to be on Wi-Fi to do that. The reason is to protect you against too much downloading on your 3G connection.
Oh, I already blew my 4 megabytes.
That's why. So they say if it's over 20 megabytes, this is just a rule Apple made arbitrarily. It's not on all phones. It's just on Apple phones. If it's over 20 megabytes, you have to do it either on Wi-Fi or probably the fastest way would be do it on the computer and then sync. But you can do it on Wi-Fi. You just can't do it on 3G.
Okay. Well, thank you, Leo.
You're welcome. And that setting, by the way, thanks to the chat room, is in settings in the store. There's a store entry in the preferences, and if you go in there, you'll see there's those 3 switches, and you don't have to have all the apps automatically downloaded. A lot of people like that. I do that because then I can see what apps my son's buying. Actually, I got to turn that off. I don't have any more room for rap music on my iPhone. That's enough. It's legal to do this. it's a question of whether, but you can't kind of do part and part. Now, what happens? Let me ask the chat room, because maybe this would be a solution. They've taken the copy protection out of the iTunes Music, right? So can you take the music you buy on your computer and put it on her computer and then have it sync up? Or is it not that it's copy protected, but just that it's registered to that account? This is one that they've changed the rules on, and I'm not sure. But the way Apple works and the way they think of it is you have an account in the iTunes store. That's your account with your login. Anybody else on any device that uses that login and account has access to the same apps and the same music. If you want to, and so if you want her to have everything you've got, no problem. If you don't, then she needs her own account, but she'll have to buy all of her own stuff. That's just how Apple does it. And yes, they allow you to have 5 computers, a maximum of 5 computers with the same account, but you can have as many iPhones and iPods as you want. 8888 Ask Leo. I will ask and I will answer. Roberto, Manhattan Beach, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Roberto.
Hello. How are you today?
Very well, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I have some questions about anonymous proxies.
Okay.
There's high security proxies, I guess. High anon. And how secure are they? And what can you tell me?
Don't confuse security with anonymity. First,
yes.
Proxies are not more secure, particularly. The idea of a proxy is so think of how you go out on the internet. Your computer, you enter in an address, and that computer then looks up the address and tries to make a connection with the computer server at that address. So you establish a conversation. Oh, going to have to take a break. And then I will explain. Actually, this is really important for people who are trying to maintain anonymity on the net. I'll explain how this works in a second. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Kyle Benham playing the music. That's really his job. Choosing great music bumps. And he does a few other things. Is it Gina Yates on the phones today?
Yes.
And I happen to be Leo Laporte. I am my computer's mother. No, that's not right. 8888 Ask Leo. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, you want to talk high tech. Now, we were talking about proxies. And Roberto, I started by explaining, I know you know this, but just so people understand what we're talking about, what a proxy does. It is a server that sits between me and the website I'm visiting. And so I surf to that intermediate website or server. That's called a proxy server. And it goes on my behalf to the site that I want to go to. It acts as my proxy. And the reason you would do that is when that proxy server gets to the website doesn't see your IP address. It sees the proxy server's IP address. So you are anonymous in that respect. The endpoint website doesn't see your address. However, the endpoint website does see the proxy server's address. If law enforcement wanted to track you down, they would issue 2 subpoenas. One to the end site, saying who was it visited you at that time. That's the normal one they would issue. They would see the IP address of the proxy server and go, oh, that's not our guy. That's a proxy server he was using. And then they would serve a subpoena on the proxy server. And depending on where the proxy server is, how privacy-focused they are, how willing they are to suffer the wrath and ire of the federal government, they may or may not protect you. In most cases, even on supposedly truly anonymous proxy servers, they will give the feds the information and you are busted. So proxy servers aren't exactly private. There is a system called Tor, the onion router, that attempts to make it more private by doing layers. Proxy server to proxy server to proxy server to proxy server to proxy server, adding so many in between that it's infeasible for a law enforcement or governmental agency to backtrack all the way. In theory, they could, but it's just not practical. The negative on that is Tor is very slow because, of course, each hop that they add slows your connectivity down. So people generally don't use Tor for streaming video, that kind of thing. Webby asks, what if the proxy doesn't keep a record of connections? And that's what a maximum security proxy server is, a individual or group that says, but we're not going to keep a log, or we're going to destroy our logs. And some do that. Generally speaking, that's something the federal government doesn't like too much. They will often go after companies that do this. And sad to say, we've even heard stories of companies, proxy companies that claimed to do this, who in fact didn't do it or had a way of backtracking and were able to give that information to law enforcement. So, you know, and I don't want to imply that people use proxy servers to break the law necessarily. If you're in China, you use a proxy server, for instance, to get to Facebook because Facebook is blocked by the Chinese authorities. But a proxy server allows you in. In effect, they're doing a reverse proxy because what they're doing is that they're sitting in China, and instead of going to Facebook.com, they go to U.S. proxy to Facebook.com, which to the Chinese officials looks like a benign site, and from there, that site takes them to Facebook. So it looks like they're having a kind of benign transaction when in fact they are going to Facebook. That's kind of the opposite, but that's one way proxies are used. Another way proxies are used, for instance, is to watch content that is blocked because you're in a different country. BBC has a player called iPlayer that lets you watch BBC programming. You can't watch it outside the UK unless you go through a UK proxy. So you would surf to the UK, and that proxy server in UK would then access iPlayer and send you back the information. It would look like it's coming from a UK site. So there's nothing illegal about proxies per se. You can, just as with BitTorrent, it can be used for legitimate purposes or illegal purposes, but generally they're used to protect anonymity or hide identity. And as you might imagine, the federal government is not a big fan of hiding identity in general, nor are many other governments. That's why Venezuela, China, and other repressive regimes, North Korea, do the same thing, don't they? They will crack the proxy so they can find out who you are. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Garrett in Upland, California. He wants to know it's a good question. It's a timing question. When's the best time to get a computer or build a computer? Is there a time of year that's the best time? Leo. Garrett, Upland, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, Garrett.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up? What's happening?
Not much, man.
I like your question. Are you about to build a PC?
I'm about to build one. I want to get all the best parts, like the i7, solid state, Corsair.
Love it.
And
Love
Corsair
it.
memory. I want all the best, but when's the best time to buy it all?
Yeah, I mean, and there are cycles. For instance, Intel just had their Intel Developers Forum 2 weeks ago, and they announced a whole bunch of updates that are going to be coming out over. What they do is they put out something called a roadmap that says, here are the chips we're going to put out. Here's the improvements, and what will happen is they'll come out. Ivy Bridge comes out in November. Yeah, the manufacturers will get a copy of those chips and be able to manufacture them within 6 weeks, usually pretty quickly. You'll know that some manufacturers are faster and some are slower to get those. And then you'll be able to buy those. So, a month or so after they push the chips out to the manufacturers, they'll start showing up. Now, if you're building your own, it's roughly the same. The big motherboard manufacturers, Asus and Gigabyte and others, will get access to these parts roughly the same time. Unfortunately, they're not in lockstep. So Intel will release new video cards at a different time from the new chipsets. At a different
Oh, wow.
So they don't keep it. So it's not like you could say, "Hey, November, go." Here's what I would do. There's a great site for this. I love this site. It's called PC Perspective. Do you know this one, Garrett? My friend Ryan Shrout runs it. He does a podcast for me called This Week in Computer Hardware.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, PCPER.com. If you're an enthusiast, especially if you're building your own, this is a great site to go to for reviews, but also you'll see right at the top there, they have something they call the Hardware Leaderboard, HW Leaderboard. And by the way, the new SSD decoder, Alan Malventano's done his update on that. So if you're looking for the best solid-state drives, that's also a good button to look at. So here's the leaderboard. They tell you, they make 4 different systems: the Dream system, the high-end system, the mid-range system, and the low-end system. And based on their reviews and ratings and tests, what components you'd put in each. So if your budget is $451, that's the low-end system, here's what they recommend. If your budget is $2,150, which it sounds like, Garrett, this is the market you're in, they're saying, yeah, get the i7 2600. And they'll tell you, and by the way, it's only $315 for that chip. That's a good deal. They'll tell you in here what to look for going forward, what the future is. For instance, they say the extreme enthusiast, that's you, Garrett, also gets at least one chance to upgrade the system as newer LGA 1155 Sandy Bridge CPUs become available in the future. If that is meaningful, that sentence means anything to you, if it doesn't make your head spin, this is for you. They recommend the motherboards. They like the Asus right now. Video cards, another Asus. Corsair RAM. This is if you part of the fun of building your own computer is figuring all this stuff out. But if you just want to see what they recommend, and they've done a lot of work, and they live this stuff. PCPER.com. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk about computers and the internet and cell phones and camcorders and MP3 players, home theater and all that jazz. Phone number 8888. Ask Leo. Call me and let me know what you're up to on this weekend. Love to hear from people who have opinions, pro and con, on Facebook. It's just, I am a little bit in a bubble, too, of course. I'm surrounded by techno enthusiasts, by geeks. We're here at our Tech Guy Labs in the northernmost part of Silicon Valley, but we get the echoes from Silicon Valley. So I like the new Facebook. I think it's very cool. But I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of my mom and my sister and my less, I don't want to say less techno literate friends, but by my friends who are normal people, who don't live, breathe, eat technology, who don't play with computers on a nonstop day and day, who use Facebook just to stay in touch. And I have to think, and I may be wrong, and that's why I'm asking you, that these changes are disconcerting, upsetting, make it more difficult to use, make it difficult to even know what's public and what's private. It's already a complicated system, and it's just gotten so much more complicated. Now, and you won't see this probably right away, but now they're going to add this new feature called Profiles and Timelines. If you go to facebook.com/profiles, you can see the new profile page and what it's going to look like on Facebook. It's going to be very, very different. You'll have one big picture of yourself or whatever you choose at the top of the profile. You'll have your profile page itself will be a timeline of stuff that you've posted over the years on Facebook. You'll have the capability, I'm not denying it, you'll have the capability of making everything private. If you still want to have a completely private Facebook page, you bet you could still do it. But the defaults in most cases are public. And even the fact that you have to select is kind of annoying. Facebook.com/timelines, that's actually the place to go. And then so you could see the new profile page, what that looks like. You could see what they call your stories. Share and highlight your most memorable posts, photos, and life events on your timeline. This is where you could tell your story from beginning to middle to now. And there's an ability to star them, to make them widescreen, or remove them by clicking a pencil and saying remove, or make them private, control who sees what. So you have great granular capability. You can also put apps on there that tell people what movies you're watching, what music you're listening to, how far you went on your latest run, what books you're reading, and things like that. I like it. I just want to be clear about that. I think it's really cool, but I am wondering if it's too much for a normal person who just wants to use Facebook to stay in touch. Have they gone too far? And that's what I'd like to know. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. Perry in Lompoc, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Perry.
Hi, Leo. Enjoy your show, and thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm in the market for a new, actually, it's actually a bedroom television LCD backlit LED. And one quick warning here, by the way. I had one that was about 4 years old, and I was taking some components out, some of the cords, and I hit the power strip, and one of the plugs was not completely plugged in, so I blew all my HDMI interface out completely.
That's got to hurt.
So now it's used as a backup TV, so I do get the component, for high def.
Right.
But I can't watch my Blu-ray.
Wow. Yeah, I have to. People forget that these new TVs and Blu-ray players and DVRs, all this stuff, these are really just computers. And like computers, are kind of sensitive to power fluctuation. So a lot of people, and I encourage this, that you put a power conditioner, what they call a UPS, in between your, television setup and your power supply. It's not a bad idea.
Because it is just...
They're fragile. That should not have happened.
Not really. But, I like I said, the one of the cords, like the component cords hit the one of the plugs that was not completely plugged into the power strip. Now they make power strips. Now I bought a Philips that you cannot... it's got to be plugged all the way in, and it's got to click, and it's very hard to push those in nowadays.
Yeah.
So like a safety feature the power surge protector companies are putting on now. But my question, Leo, is with the LCD LED backlit, edge-lit versus full background lit. Now,
I'll tell you right now, full backlit is better. We were talking about this last weekend with Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy. But almost everybody has eliminated those. They're too expensive, and they make edge-lit now. And the edge-lit still look better than the fluorescent, the old ways of backlighting LCD. So if you can find a full backlit, it'll be a lot more expensive. What's interesting, and this is what Scott was talking about, is Sharp has bought the Kuro technology. Kuro was the top-of-the-line pioneer plasma television. Those Kuro pioneers stopped making it. Those Kuro engineers and a lot of the technology have now gone to Sharp. And Sharp is going to make an elite, top-of-the-line LED backlit LCD TV that will have full backlighting. And Scott said he was looking at it at CEDIA, the big installers trade show this last week, and said it looks spectacular. The blacks are very deep and rich, which is unusual on an LCD, but it's also really expensive. I mean, it's probably 50%. I would say it's twice as expensive as a comparable LCD edge-lit.
Yeah, the edge-lit. I'm in the process. I buy like mail order, like through QVC. Because they have the flex pays, So you don't.
They don't have any full backlit LCDs on.
They do, believe it or not. They got an LG which is on order now, and it should come in Monday. And
that's probably an older model because almost everybody eliminated those. And of course, if they're selling it on QVC, it's almost I would bet it's an older model.
Yeah, it probably is. I think. Actually, Leo, I think it's a fairly new. I mean, it's not brand new, but it's like peaked.
Okay.
But like I said, I ordered another one, an Element brand, edge-lit. But I noticed on that particular model, it may have been defective. I don't know. Some light bleeding, and like if you're watching.
Well, and that was and that was exactly the reason that we didn't like these old fluorescent ones. And I presume this could be a problem with a poorly made edge-lit LED. Is that the uneven light? So it's brighter at the corners. Because that's where the light is going. Now shouldn't happen, and I think that Element is a cheaper LCD, and that's why. A well-manufactured LCD, you shouldn't have bleeding, and the way to do it is to make a completely dark screen, and look and see is it black, evenly black across the entire screen, especially in the edges and the corners, and of course this is potentially more of a problem with edge-lit.
Yeah. Now, what about? Thank you for that. That is very interesting. What about the 60 hertz versus 120 hertz? Because, on that, I seen, you could flip them on and off. You could toggle it, off. But a lot of times the 120 hertz, if you're looking at it almost looks animated.
Yeah, I don't like it. So here's the deal. All the information is in the 60 hertz. That's how many frames per second, 60 frames per second. And, well, it's actually 60 fields per second to be very technical. I have to say that, otherwise I get emails from broadcast engineers saying, well, Leon, it's actually... So anything more than 60 hertz, they're interpolating. They're making up what those additional frames look like. And that gives you a very video-y look, which I don't like. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I didn't. Now, see, Kyle, we've learned a little something about you. Apparently, Kyle's been using Spotify for some of the music bumps, and Spotify hung. That happens, doesn't it? Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. If you want to talk high tech. I love Spotify. I don't know why. I remember, Spotify just came to the U.S. a month or so ago. And people in Europe, where Spotify originated, have been singing its praises for a year. Most of the time, it's we get stuff in the U.S. like Netflix, Hulu, and then people outside our borders go, why do you talk about all this stuff? It's driving me crazy. I want it and I can't get it. Well, Spotify's been their revenge for some time. And they've raved about Spotify. This is a great music service, a music sharing service. They just go on and on and on. And, I said, well, I'm interested. Tell me about it. I'll find out, I guess, when it comes out in the States. So it came out. And, basically the way it works, it's a music subscription service. You pay, 10 or $15 a month for the premium service. And you can listen to any of their millions of songs. And make playlists and so forth. And there are other services like this. There was Rhapsody. There was Napster, the new Napster, not the original Napster. The Zune Marketplace, which I really liked. I loved the Zune subscription service. Then there were some others like Rdio and Mog. Used both of those. I still have a Mog account. I think I might even still have an Rdio account. I really liked Rdio because it was social. And I thought, well, what could Spotify do that's any different, that's in any way superior to what these other music services do? Well, I don't know what it is, but there's something about Spotify. Do you agree, Kyle, that I just love? I paid for it almost immediately.
Spotify's great.
He loves it. Yeah. It's not that it has different music. It's pretty much all the same music now. One of the things that happens with Spotify is that when you sign up, you immediately get all of your Facebook friends on here. And as they use it, you can look at their playlists and see what they're listening to, which I kind of like. Especially if you have a friend who has great taste in music. It's Rdio did this too, but there's something about how easy it was to set up on Spotify. And then you can play, they've added radio now. So they have radio categories. That's interesting. That's something iHeartRadio, which is a free Clear Channel service, is going to add, a Pandora-style artist radio, in addition to all the radio stations. There's no radio stations on Spotify. It's just music, but there's just something about it. You can make your own playlists. One of the things that really works in Spotify is that you can make a playlist and put it on the internet, have people click that link, and it will add it to their Spotify account, which is kind of neat. And if you update the playlist, if they subscribe to it, the updates occur. So I've subscribed to a number of BBC playlists. And when BBC updates them, automatically I get the music that they updated. You can even make it available offline, which I think is kind of interesting. If you're on a portable device, that's one of the problems with these kinds of services. If you can't stream, if you don't have internet access, how do you listen? Well, they'll actually download these songs to your portable device so that if you're on an airplane, you can listen. I kind of like that too. There's just something about Spotify. There's a free version of it, but there's also a premium version. Obviously, their hope is if you do the free version and you come to like it, you'll pay for the premium version. Ben Oliver in our chat room says he's made a playlist club on Google Plus for Spotify. This is kind of an interesting idea. Every Monday, we pick a theme for the week and run with it in a collaborative playlist. Isn't that a great idea? So now, if you go to this club, you can see these playlists and listen in. There's just so much you can do with social. And music, it lends itself very well to social. That's why Facebook has embedded this stuff in the new Facebook. In fact, they're going to add Hulu, Netflix. They're going to add TV, too. I think it lends itself to TV. And, if the networks are smart, the networks have already observed that viewership, even for live events, especially for live events like the Academy Awards or the Emmys, has gone up thanks to social networks. People tweet, oh, my goodness, did you see what Drew Carey was wearing at the Emmys? Oh, my goodness. And then everybody goes, oh, wow. And they turn on the TV. It solves a problem that the networks have been really suffering with, is that people stopped watching live TV. They TiVo it and watch it later. Well, now they want to watch because all their friends are watching at the same time, and this will happen on Facebook, too. It's very interesting. If I were a television network, I would be very intrigued by this as a way to boost audience numbers. And I have a feeling they are, and that's one of the reasons I think you're going to start seeing more and more television on services like Facebook. It's in their interest. Leonard in Agoura, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Leonard.
Hello. How are you doing, Leo?
Wonderful. How are you?
Great. I know you traveled to China last year or so, and I'm planning to leave the 15th of October.
You're going to... it's an amazing country. Oh, I am so envious.
Yeah, we're going to be there for 3 weeks and have quite a setup, a planned trip with a private tour based in country. But
that's the way to do it, by the way. Spend a lot of time. It's a big country, and there's a lot to see. I was there 2 weeks, and I could have spent 2 years there and still not have seen everything. It's an amazing, amazing place.
So we blog while we're traveling and post, 4, 5, 6 pictures a day. And I hear that Blogspot, for example, is blocked by China if possible, and I've read a couple of things. VPN is one, and proxy server is another.
That's too complicated. That's for people who live in China, and in fact, it's widely used in China by the elites, because, and it's my opinion, the Chinese government looks the other way. They understand that the elites, the educated elites, the college kids, the graduate students, the doctors, the physicians, really demand and want full internet access, so they look the other way. Their real concern is that the mass populace don't use these social media sites to organize as they have in Egypt and Tunisia and lately, and so that's why they block Twitter, they block Facebook, they block a lot of the internet, but they know that there's a way around it, and they don't try. They don't really. I think they could do a much more thorough blocking. It's very hard to block the internet. It's like water; it leaks through, but. I suspect they don't mind that the elites can see what's going on. It's the populace.
I've been home, last couple of years, most of the days, and so I'm very familiar with VPN.
I wouldn't do that. Here's what I would do, and this is what I did. In fact, you're right that you can't go on. You can't get your laptop. You're in the hotel and you go on Facebook or you go on your blog. Often that's blocked, especially the big blogs. Now, if you have a private WordPress blog, as I do, leoville.com, they can't block every blog in the world, so they're not going to block them all. But you're saying you're on Blogspot?
Yeah, I'm on Blogspot.
Yeah, they may block it. And the other thing that's difficult is it changes. When I got to China, this was 2 years ago in July, Twitter worked. By the time I left, 2 weeks later, it stopped working, and that was because of a revolt that was happening in China, and they got they cracked down on some of these services. I have a solution for you, Leonard, that is guaranteed to work no matter what kind of blocking they put in, and I'm going to tell you about it because I have to take a break in just a second. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Sell Extreme. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We were talking with Leonard in Agoura, California. He's going to China. I'm so jealous next month, and he wants to be able to blog. I don't blame you. I found a lot of ways around they call it the Chinese firewall, the people's, and I found many ways to get around it. First thing I would do is go to Wikipedia. I did this during the break, and it's interesting. They have a page called Internet Censorship in the People's Republic of China, which talks about the history of it, and then they link to, on that page, a page of lists of websites blocked And because it's Wikipedia, I would guess this is kept pretty up to date. So social networks, blogs, video and image sharing sites blocked: Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, Twitter, Google Docs, Google+, Google App Engine, Picasa, IMDb. They don't want you to read about movies? Technorati, which doesn't even really exist anymore. Blogspot, that's your blog.
Yep.
Plurk, Wretch, and PBWorks. Okay, so here's what I would suggest. First, check and see if you can blog by email to Blogspot. You may be able to. They are not blocking email. They can't. So I would check that. If they are, in fact, is not easy to post by email, then I would recommend a site called Posterous, which I love. And this is what I used when I was in China. Posterous is a really interesting system that lets you email content, including pictures and blog posts, and then it will distribute the content even to sites that are blocked in China. So, for instance, I would upload a video via YouTube. And actually, what I do is I'd email the video to Posterous, and it would then say, "Oh, that's video, that goes to YouTube. Oh, that's text, that goes to your blog. Oh, that's a tweet, that goes to Twitter." So it's almost as if you've got a VPN, except you don't have to go through all those steps. You just email the content to Posterous, which then distributes it around to the various sites.
So what would the email address of Posterous be?
You get one. I think it was posted to Posterous, but first you have to create an account on Posterous, and then you can, in the account, you can control where stuff is going. So I actually have a number of Posterous blogs. I wonder if they've changed their look. Talk about pivots. It looks like they've changed their pivot a little bit. They've changed their modus, but it still, I think, pretty much gives you this capability of posting to various sites through email, and that was their idea. So set up a Posterous account. It's free. posterous.com. They have an iPhone app. Are you bringing an iPhone? What kind of phone are you bringing?
I have a Android Samsung Moment.
Okay. So you could also put the Posterous app on your Android phone, and post right there directly through the Android phone. So let's say you want to put some pictures on your blog, in your blog spot. You'd use you take a picture on your phone, use the Posterous app. It would send it to Posterous, which would then send it to Blogspot, thereby bypassing the Great Firewall of China. There are other ways to do similar things. I used a site called Audio Boo, which I don't think is currently blocked. It wasn't blocked at the time. And I would make audio blogs, audio posts, which would then go on my blog. That was a lot of fun. You can't upload pictures directly to Flickr or to Picasa, but you can email them to Posterous, which will then put them on Flickr and Picasa. So it's fairly simple. In fact, it's almost too easy to get around this. You can't go to Facebook, but you can go to Posterous. Post the stuff on Posterous. It'll then post it on Facebook. Looks like, I have to go back to Posterous because I haven't seen it in a while. It looks like they've changed a little bit of their business model, but I suspect it's they now call themselves Posterous Spaces. Faster access, brand new profile page. Your pages will load faster. So I have, if you go to my blog, Leo Laposterous, you'll notice I have a blog that stuff gets uploaded to basically automatically. And that can be a blog all by itself. But since you already have a presence on Blogspot, then what I would suggest is using the settings in Posterous to automatically post it to Blogspot or Twitter or wherever else you need to go. And this is a fairly easy thing to do in Posterous. posterous.com, and that's free. And the whole idea of Posterous, they've kind of unfortunately been eclipsed, I'm afraid, by Tumblr. But the whole idea was email your posts to us, and we'll make sure they get where they're going. And unless the Chinese government are actively watching you and your email, that should be fine. They're not going to block emails. They can't. Have a great trip, Leonard. I'm jealous. Bring a good camera. Take lots of pictures. Blog as much as possible. What is Leonard? What is the? Do you want to? Is your blog private, or do you want to share it with us so we can follow your trip?
Yeah, it's whilst, WHILST dash traveling.blogspot.com.
Sounds like you've done this before.
What?
Sounds like you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, we actually have our trips. Last year we were in Peru and Ecuador. So went down to the Galapagos and Machu Picchu.
What fun. Wasn't Machu Picchu amazing? You're following me, aren't you? Machu Picchu's amazing. I got some amazing pictures there. I think this is a very nice thing to do, not only for family and friends, but to share your travels. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and that way, our family can keep aware that everything's going fine where we're at. And sometimes we travel without having things scheduled. So, our oldest daughter kind of likes to have everything planned out, and we're kind of that keeps them.
It makes her feel better about it, huh? Beautiful pictures of Machu Picchu. I have to say, I will never forget that. It was an amazing. Oh, and you were lucky. It looks like you got some sun while you were there.
Yeah, we had a couple of beautiful days, and the Lake Titicaca, that floating islands, and all of that.
Oh, amazing.
Was quite something as well. So.
And what about that Urubamba River? That is something. Whew.
Yeah.
Well, I would check. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Blogspot, many blogs do have an email address for you that you could just email your posts to. And that would simplify that. But
I'll have to check.
Yeah, check. And if not, then you could email them to Posterous and have Posterous then pass it along to Blogspot. They do support Blogspot.
Okay. Thank you very much, Leo.
Thanks for the call. Have a wonderful trip. I'm very jealous. There's a new website. This might work, too, for you. This is kind of interesting, called If This Then That, IFTTT.com, that lets you create rules. You could do, if the Chinese government started to block Posterous, you would email stuff to yourself, and you could have a trigger that said, hey, if the email with a subject line blog post comes to my email account, then post it on my blog. Things like that. This is a very interesting site. Free. IFTTT.com. If This Then That. It's basically kind of a programming language for the internet. That's pretty wild. At first it might be a little confusing, but it's pretty straightforward. And if you are confused, they have some recipes of things that others have created. So, for instance, text me whenever somebody creates a new recipe. Last FM tracks go to my Twitter, that kind of thing. Here's Dear Diary, a running log of where I am. These are all things people have created. This is a really neat site if you haven't tried it. IFTTT.com. If This Then That.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I love this. I haven't heard this song in ages. That's what Spotify's great for. See now, Kyle, you got to share that on your Facebook page. It should say Kyle Benham's listening to, and then I could click it and I could listen to it too. It's going to be very interesting if this catches on. And it's Facebook. They've got 750 million users. There's not a lot of other places you can go. I imagine it will catch on. I'm sure that's what Facebook's banking on. If it does catch on, I think it may be kind of a brave new world for musical artists, musicians, I guess we call them now, because if you get some people listening to your song, it can snowball. So it's very intriguing. I want to hear Leonard Skinner too. And then you click it, you listen, and then you go, well, boy, I forgot how good this album is. I had it many years ago on vinyl. I should buy that. And you buy it. And I think it's potentially very good for music. We shall see. We shall see. Andres in California, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Andres.
Oh, hi. Yes. Hi, Leo. First time caller.
Welcome.
So, but I've heard your show for a long time.
Good. I'm glad you finally called.
Yeah, no, I've been on hold for a long time.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the deal, isn't it? It's because Leo talks so much, man. He is just gabby.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask because I have a PSP, and it's the laser. It's not reading the discs anymore.
Oh, the PSP was kind of an oddball device, which I loved, but it had those strange discs. In fact, I don't know if Sony still sells them. Can you still get the discs for it, the little mini discs that they use?
Still get them. I've even played the new games on it. I mean, the laser turns on, but it doesn't it says the discs could not be read after 3 minutes of waiting.
Yeah, I think those the UMD discs are optical, as you say. So there is a laser in there. But to be honest, I don't know if anybody fixes PSPs, and that's what it sounds like. That's what's going on here. Now, our chat room, as usual, brilliant people have come up with something. Espen says he's sending me to a site called Llama, LLAMMA.com. And it says PSP UMD repair not reading UMD discs, which sounds like exactly what you're talking about. I will put that link. Actually, James will put that link into our show notes at techguylabs.com. This is 807 because it's a long list of things to do. He says, I've seen many PSPs stop reading UMDs, and for the most part, they're repairable with the least amount of opening your PSP. He says about 35% of the time there's something stuck in the UMD gear, so it's not spinning. Another quarter of the time it's a disc spinning motor that will not let the disc spin. About 20% is the laser motor. About 10% is the actual laser itself. In other words, not very common. Last 10% is the motherboard. And so look at this and go through his checklist of things to try.
Okay, yeah, no, it's because the PSP crashed a while ago. It wasn't, working. It didn't even turn on. I charged and it didn't turn on. And then after a while, it turned on again. And, the settings were all reset, but then after that, before it crashed, you could read the PSP discs, but now...
Can you tell if it's spinning?
Yeah, you can hear, when I turn it on, you hear the little disc spinning, but then after a while, it says the disc could not be read, even with the brand new ones that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fix it by remote control, but I think this is a great start. And ESPN, or Espen, thank you for the suggestion. It's at Llama, misspelled, LLAMMA.com. It's a PSP site, and he has a repairs section and a specific one on discs not reading. I would certainly try that first, Andres. See if you can get it fixed by yourself. Could be a dirty lens. There's a little tab that's supposed to pop up. It could be that's not popping up. It's interesting that it happened when you fix the software. I don't know. That's the best I can do. I can't diagnose and fix it from afar. I wish I could. Wouldn't that be nice? Good superpower to have. I shall fix your PSP. Just put it up next to the radio. Warren in Northridge, California. You're next. Hold on a second. He has a problem with his CD or blank DVD. It reboots his computer every time he puts one in. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. That's not right. That's not right. Now we'll say hello to Warren in Northridge, California.
Hey, Leo. Good afternoon.
So every time you put a CD or a DVD in the drawer?
Yeah, every time I put a blank CD or DVD in one of the internal drives, it reboots. However, for an external drive, it doesn't do that. I've updated the BIOS, reformatted the hard drive, and when it does reboot, I get a blue screen. It mentions beginning dump of physical memory with different codes.
Don't worry about that blue screen. That's not telling you anything that will help you in any way.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Error codes from computers are sometimes of use to the programmer, otherwise completely useless, and especially the blue screen of death error code. By the time the computer's dead, it doesn't know what caused it. It's just saying, and spitting out a lot of stuff. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. It's interesting, though. I mean, we can diagnose it probably from the symptoms you report. So an external CD or DVD drive, nothing. Doesn't do that. Does it? And it only happens with a blank CD or DVD.
Only blanks.
And it only, so if you put a recorded CD or DVD in there, no problem.
Correct.
I'm going to guess, and remember, it's only a guess. I am a trained professional, but this is the best I can do. I haven't yet perfected this reach out through the radio thing. I'm going to guess that what's happening is that it's loading a special driver when you put a blank in. A driver that computers sometimes come with that allow you to write to the DVD or CD by just dragging over to it. A UMD driver. Not UMD. UDP. Is it UDP? Driver. I suspect it's software. So what I would try first is booting into safe mode and see if the same thing happens.
Yeah, and I think it's done that.
Well, try, because if it does it even in safe mode, UDF, that's it. Thank you very much, Archandra. That's the acronym. UDF is a format that allows you to copy files directly to a CD or DVD as if it's a hard drive. Nero comes with that. A lot of Roxio comes with that. A lot of DVD burning software comes with that. And if you had that UDF software on your computer, when you put a blank disk in the drive, it would wake up and say, yep, you need me. And if it's broken or damaged, it would crash your system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does, yeah.
So I would, if you have Nero, Roxio, or one of those DVD burning programs on there, another way to try to be uninstall it.
Really? Okay. All right.
See if that does it. This is what I believe it is. Now, there's a little fly in the ointment in that it happens with external drives too. But if it's a USB external drive, that may be it may not pop up that driver right away. So I would guess that it's a driver that's getting loaded when you put a blank disk in. I would try the start menu or rather the safe menu, but if not, well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. It's time to talk about tech, computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number if you want to talk about it. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S., outside the U.S. Use Skype or some other voice over the internet, and you can make that call to a toll-free number. I think it's free. We certainly get calls from all over the world, which is really fun. Peter, though, is in Los Angeles, and he's next on the Tech Guy Show. Hi, Peter. Leo Laporte here.
Hi, Leo. How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, sir.
Leo, I've got a laptop at home, a Gateway. It's about 2 years old, and for about a month now I'm having startup problems. Instead of my operating system coming up, which is Vista, I get startup repair and system restore coming up, and I click through it and I let the startup repair do its thing, or system repair do its thing, and I get my operating system, but I don't know what the problem is to troubleshoot it and get rid of it. Do you have any thoughts for me? Is there a software out there that can actually diagnose my startup and tell me what the problem is?
No, because there's too many possibilities. It's not infinite, but it's close to it. It could be hardware, it could be software. If it's software, it could be any number of system components. Let's walk through the startup process so I can at least see where it's failing. So you turn on the computer.
Okay.
And you see a black screen that shows the hardware or shows the brand of the computer or something like that?
Yeah, the Gateway logo comes up.
Okay.
LED light comes up in the upper left-hand corner, and then it gets black screen again, and where my operating system used to come up, I get a whole screen full of copy that says cannot boot up or something.
Okay, and it's white text on a black background?
Yes.
All right. So it's very early in the boot stage. It is possibly Windows, possibly something even more significant. Could be, for instance, a bad hard drive. Or it could just be that there's a part of the hard drive called the master boot record. It could just be that little bit. It's a very tiny bit of the hard drive. If it fails, then crash. The whole thing happens. So it's very difficult to know exactly where this failure is occurring. And that will tell you something about what's wrong with the system. Do you remember anything about that white text on black background? Anything that it says? That text would tell me something. If it says, for instance, can't find operating system.
No, it's not telling me that. No.
What's it? Yeah.
It's just giving me options to start up in safe mode.
Ah, okay. So you get No, that's all right. So that's good. That's interesting. You're getting to the boot menu. Have you tried some of those options?
I just my options are startup in safe mode, startup.
Yeah. No, I've seen the menu. Have you tried any of those? Like the safe mode. Have you tried the safe mode?
I haven't tried the safe mode. I've just let the startup repair program, which is another option. I've chosen startup repair to see if I can, fix whatever.
And nothing's happened there, huh?
No, because it's just a repeated problem. I mean,
yeah. Try the safe mode. See if it'll go in safe mode. It could be, okay, get ready for this. It could be, for instance, you've got a stuck shift key on your keyboard, and it keeps putting, that menu is supposed to pop up if you press the shift key during boot. It is a configuration menu that will allow you to go into safe mode, which we often recommend. You might have heard me recommend that last hour to a caller. It could be that. It could be that there's a driver loading that's crashing it. Have you tried last known good configuration? That should be one of the items on the menu.
I think System Restored offers me an opportunity to go back to the last time it properly booted up.
Yeah, and that didn't work, obviously. Try the safe mode.
And what am I looking for after I start up in safe mode?
Well, if it boots in safe mode, you'll get into a kind of primitive form of Windows. Safe mode is Windows minus any of the fancy drivers. So you'll boot into a very 640 by 40 screen with 256 colors. You'll boot into a very rudimentary version of Windows. But what it will tell you is, oh no, a lot of stuff's good here. It's some driver that loads later that's causing the problem. And then we'll know, okay. In other words, this is a classic system of troubleshooting, is you're slowly eliminating possibilities.
Yeah, and that's what I'd like to do. I haven't really added anything to my computer in the last couple of months. The only thing I added, honestly, was iTunes.
It doesn't matter what you did.
Yeah.
It could be that, but, it isn't necessarily that.
But I am getting eventually to my operating system,
So how do you get to the operating system?
I allow it to do startup repair. It says if it finds any problems, it will repair them, and it restarts, and boom, there's my desktop.
So it's just that the issue is just that you get this screen every time, and you have to go through this process every time.
It doesn't tell me what the problem is. It doesn't give me,
Well, you could bring it into a shop. I mean, I can't, I could spend some time with you, and we could try to, in a half an hour, 45 minutes, figure it out. But there's something going wrong, isn't there? And I don't know exactly what it is. It probably is a hard drive that's a little flaky. I would go into safe mode, see if things operate, then shut down normally in safe mode, then turn it on, see if that fixes it. There are all sorts of tricks that people will use to fix this. One thing is to get your Windows install disk, run it as if you're installing a new copy of Windows onto that computer. But when you get to the point where it's about to do that, right before it does that, it'll say, oh, wait a minute, I see a copy of Windows. Do you want me to repair it? Pressing R at that point will then scan all the system files, make sure they're all intact and present. That could be one of the problems. Usually when this kind of thing happens, Peter, it's at a hard drive that is getting flaky. And some critical part of the operating system, some critical file, is damaged. It sounds like when you do the scan and repair, it's restoring it, but then it doesn't stay repaired. If it is the hard drive, and then there are other options after that. There's programs like SpinRite that will attempt to recover all of that, and often running SpinRite on a drive like that will fix it forever. You could buy a new drive and reinstall. My strong suggestion, Peter, very strong suggestion at this point, is to go through that process to get you into Windows, have it running. Now back up your stuff. If you have to run out today to Fry's and get an external hard drive that you could plug into the USB port, back up your data, because anytime things like this are happening, it is often a warning that the drive itself is about to die. And once it dies, once you cannot get into Windows, even with all this rigmarole, then recovering the data is a real pain. So right now, I would attempt to recover your data, back up your data on an external drive. And then you can, it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring this into the shop. It's the kind of thing, you can mess around with if you have some skills. If you don't know what's going on, it's not something you'll be easily able to fix. And there is I wish there were, no program you could run that will make this work. Wouldn't that be nice? Somebody should write that program. There isn't one. You might see ads on TV that claim to do that. They don't. It's too complicated a system just to fix with one button like that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
It's time to put on makeup. It's time to dress up right. It's time to raise the curtain on the Muppet Show tonight. Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know. It's like a kind of torture to have to watch the show.
You think I'm going to interrupt the Muppets? Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
It's time to get them started. Most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, motivational. This is what we call the Muppet Show.
Now we got to pay the Jim Henson estate $1 million. Leo,
Happy birthday.
Is it the Muppets' birthday today?
Jim Henson's 75th.
Jim Henson's would have been his 75th birthday. Boy, he's a guy who's missed. That's great. Well, happy birthday, Jim Henson. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Tristan in Los Angeles, you're next. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure. Welcome.
Hey, I have an interesting dilemma. I was a male model before I went to medical school, and I had the opportunity to model for Playgirl magazine.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So since then, I've become a respected physician.
Oh, dear.
And now there are some of those pictures still kind of floating around.
You're not an OBGYN, I hope.
No, but...
then it would be even more complicated.
Clever quip.
Yeah.
My concern is that, if the photographs are just on Playgirl's website, that's fine. They have the rights to those photos. But if somebody has taken these photos and posted them on other websites, first of all, they don't have the rights to the copyright.
Yeah, and one would hope that Playgirl would then pursue that.
Right, but there's so many of these.
Yeah. Welcome to the wonderful world of the Internet, where everything you ever did lives on forever.
Oh, why didn't you tell me this 10 years ago?
I wish I had. The problem is, those pictures weren't in digital form when originally. It's just that Playgirl has since posted them.
Yeah, well, they're not even. I don't know. I haven't actually checked the Playgirl's website, but I know that.
Well, it's up to. I presume that Playgirl owns the copyright to the pictures.
Right.
It's up. You cannot do anything. They're not yours. Playgirl, the copyright holder, has to pursue the violators.
Okay.
You can't do anything.
There's nothing I can do.
No, when you signed the release, you gave all rights to Playgirl. and it's up to them now to stop it. They, you no longer, they're not yours. There's not, even though it's your image. And I'll be honest with you, good luck anyway. It's a little easier if you're a copyright holder because almost any responsible website or blogging host and or that kind of thing will respond to a DMCA takedown. There's a process called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act has a process called a takedown request that is well known, well understood, very straightforward, and sites like YouTube, Flickr, all of these sites respond immediately to, because they want to preserve something that protects them in the Copyright Act. It's called the safe harbor provision. As long as they make it straightforward and easy for copyright holders to pull down copyrighted material that's illegally posted, they don't have to worry themselves about it. They're let off the hook. They're not there to police. They just have to make it easy to do. The problem is you aren't the copyright holder anymore, Tristan.
Right, but can I speak as an emissary on behalf of the copyright holder?
Maybe, I don't know.
Let me ask. My question to you is I found there's a couple websites, really only two that have these pictures of me. One of them, I noticed there was a little, website address, webmaster. So I sent him an email just saying, hey, I know the rights.
Yeah, just say friend to friend. Hey, I was young. I needed the money. Could you take him down?
Yeah, and he did.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But the second website, I can't seem to find. There's no web address. So my question to you is, how do I find out who's the guy? Because maybe if I can send him an email too, he'll take him down, and then I'm in the clear.
Yay! That's the way to do it. Okay, so here's what you do. You have to do a who is. And this is a mechanical thing. There's a number of websites that'll do this. You can go to whois.net, betterwhois.net, who.is. These are all search services that let you look up a domain name. And when you look it up, you will find the person who owns the domain name. And there has to be, by law, a contact address and phone number. Now, some websites use Whois privacy systems that protect them, so you'll go to a third party. But in a case like this, you could go to the third party and say, "I need to get this forwarded along to the owner of the site."
Okay.
And I think that's possible that you could track this down. And if you just ask nicely, as you say, this will often work fine.
Yeah, the first guy, I was amazed. Like 2 days later, he said, "No problem, I'll take him down." Boom, it was done.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, so I'm thinking if I could just get a hold of this other guy, maybe the same thing will happen. So I have to go to whois.net.
Well, that's one. There's a lot of, basically this is I guess my favorite is betterwhois.com. Betterwhois.com. And it lets you search, so you'll enter in the domain name. And then do a search. And what it'll do is it'll do the lookup on the domain name records. These are by law public records. And so you can see who owns a domain name.
Wonderful.
And that will give you further information. Now, in some cases, as in my case, here I just looked up leoville.com. The registrar that I uses domain name hiding because I didn't want to give out my personal information publicly, because this is public. But you can contact them and say, hey, look, I need to send something to the owner. Would you forward this along for me?
Okay, it's a mailing address, a web address?
It has to be all three: mailing address, email address, and phone number.
Oh, fantastic.
Those are by law required from the domain name registration.
All right, I'll give it a shot, Leo. Thank you.
Good luck, Tristan. I hope you succeed, because, I don't blame you for wanting those taken down. Although I got to tell you, it's probably not that bad for business. Really, in this day and age, do you think anybody, especially a guy, do you think anybody minds? No.
They're very flattering photos, but I just, as a physician, you have to have a proper professional decorum sort of thing.
I understand. And this is I'll be honest, I'm glad you called, because this illustrates an issue, and there are a lot of people listening right now who are posting pictures of themselves on Facebook and other places that 10 years from now, they may not, they may be a judge. And they think maybe this isn't so good as a judge to have pictures of me with a bong posted. You know, I mean, there's worse things than you and all your naked glory. I mean, that's not so bad, especially if they look good.
One of my fellow colleagues in medical school was denied a residency position because they just looked up him on had some pictures of him drinking.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I was so glad that last caller called. Just as a recap, he's a physician now, but when he was younger, he posed for pictures for Playgirl magazine. Very, that was a respectable, relatively respectable magazine that featured male nudity. And but now that he's a doctor, he wishes he hadn't. And the problem is, of course, when he did it, who would have seen it? If you didn't see the magazine when it came out, it would be lost in obscurity. You might find it in an antique store and say, well, that really looks like my doctor, but that can't be. And how many people? I mean, the chances of that are minimal. But welcome to the internet. Now anything you ever did can be published to the internet right next to your name, searchable by Google, and that's it. Your anonymity's blown. And so it's really important to keep that in mind going forward. Times have changed. A politician who could deny he'd ever used marijuana in years gone by will have a hard time denying that if it's on his Facebook page today, as he's a teenager today. I know your Facebook page is private, but don't count on it. There's nothing to stop somebody who is your Facebook friend from saving that picture and posting it publicly later, for instance. And I tell this, I say this all the time to kids. There's two important lessons. First, never post anything on the internet that you wouldn't want family, friends, teachers, and future employers to see. Period. Just don't post it. And, probably wouldn't be a good idea to pose naked for pictures in general. In general, that'd be a bad idea. Because you might want that judgeship in 20 years. But the second thing that's even maybe a little more difficult to understand or know about and to do is you, in a way, are crafting your reputation by your presence online even today. You can't ignore it. I hear from people all the time. We heard from somebody last week. Remember, an elderly woman in a nursing home. One of her friends in the nursing home who was suffering from senile dementia was saying terrible things about her online. Because this woman had no internet presence at all, if you searched for her name, the only thing you'd find would be these defamatory statements. So if you have no internet presence at all, then anybody can control your internet presence. Because I have a very large, diverse internet presence, you could say anything you want about Leo Laporte. It's not going to show up #1 on Google. Because I have lots of other stuff that's always going to show up higher. So it's just something to think about today. Staying off the internet does not protect you. The best thing to do, and you can start this as a teenager, is start cultivating your internet appearance. And I don't mean phony. I don't mean, it's like just combing your hair. It's considering that everything you post online will live forever, and the more good stuff that you post, the stuff that's truly representative of who you are that you post, the more likely that is that's what will show up and people look for your name. Here's the promise. As you go through life, people will look for you on the internet. So Google yourself and see what you find, and that's what they're going to find. So you may not like this, but the fact is, if you don't control what shows up, somebody else can. So start putting stuff on the internet. Seriously, create a blog, post your pictures. Even if you're a student and you're proud of a paper, you got an A on a paper, put the paper online. Participate in websites. Have a presence. A lot of parents keep their kids off the internet, thinking that's going to protect them. I don't know. I'm not sure that's the way to do it. As you get older, as you become a teenager and later in life, it's a very good idea to control your appearance on the internet. Search for yourself. Find out what's there. Now it's up to you to make that be the good stuff, the stuff that represents you well. Dakota's on the line from Los Angeles. Hi, Dakota. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good.
Just hanging?
Yeah.
Do you have a Facebook page, Dakota?
No, I don't really like Facebook all that much.
You're a teenager, I presume?
Yep.
Do you and your friends hang out online in any form?
Yeah.
How do you hang out?
I just text them or just hang out at school with them.
Texting, okay. So that's interesting. So if I searched for your real name, and don't give me your real name, but if I searched for your real name online, what would I find?
Probably nothing, except like my YouTube page and a couple of my videos.
Oh, that's not so bad. That's good. That's not nothing. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was just talking about. So you make videos?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And you post them on the internet, on YouTube?
Yep.
Well, see, there you go. That's exactly what I was talking about. Now you're putting stuff on the internet, so if people search for you, they're going to find you, the real you, the you that that you create. I like that. So what can we do to help you make more videos? What kind of videos are they?
Well, so far I only have one because I haven't been able to do a lot of things lately, but I've been using iMovie for like a long time before I started posting and made like little short films.
That's great. I would post more. You know, my son makes music in Logic, and he posts it on SoundCloud, and I really encourage him to do that. I think that's great. You know, you're not Steven Spielberg yet. You might even be saying, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed by these. But this is a way to kind of start doing it and get some feedback. Feedback's very important.
Yeah. I'm starting to get tired of iMovie because you can't really do super professional things. I downloaded a 30-day free trial of After Effects. I love that.
Wow, you're getting pretty sophisticated there.
Yeah, but speaking of how it costs like $1,000,
yeah,
and I don't afford that much.
Yeah, Adobe's Premiere and their studio package is great, but it's really for professionals. You know, the good news is that Apple has reduced the cost of Final Cut 10. It's only $300 now, but that's a lot less than $1,200. Motion, which is a 2D version of After Effects, similar to After Effects, that's only $50. I would look at Motion. And I would look at, if you've outgrown iMovie, look at Final Cut Pro 10. I know $300 is still a lot more, but it's a lot. It's you're not going to get stuff that's much less expensive. There is, I have to say, if it's not for Mac, unfortunately, there is an open source video editing program that's super powerful. Unfortunately, up to now, it's only been available for Windows. I think they just put out a version for Linux as well. It's called Lightworks. And I think they're probably working on a Mac version. But this is basically open source Final Cut. Very, very powerful stuff. But it does require Windows. Now, you can run Windows. If you have a copy of Windows, you can run it on the Mac in Boot Camp. And then you could put Lightworks on there. Lightworks is free.
I don't have a copy of Windows.
Yeah. It's a shame. This, it's funny. I would think they would want to get this on the Mac right away, But it's just what the developers are capable of, I guess. I think they are working on doing both Linux and Mac versions, but as of right now, I don't think they have a Mac version. It's pretty cool. What else? Anybody has another suggestion for Dakota of After Effects-like program that he could use? There is a free trial of Final Cut Pro. If you go, that Apple just launched, apple.com/Final Cut Pro/trial. So I'd take a look at that and see. The Final Cut Pro itself is not so very different from iMovie. You might say, well, I don't feel like I'm getting a lot more out of this. But there are lots of plugins available for it that enhance it. But again, it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
I think iMovie is pretty powerful stuff. I'd focus more on your filmmaking and see if what more you can do with iMovie. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, if you get a chance, go to Google.com. I didn't realize this. Is this how you found out it was Jim Henson's 75th birthday, Kyle? It's got a special Google Doodle, and it's kind of fun. And now I won't give away the secret, although the chat room told me, thank goodness. But click around with it a little bit. It can do different things. And I'll give you a hint. Click the green guy and wait. Google.com if you haven't yet played with the Google Doodle to honor Jim Henson, who's 75th. Pardon me?
I said, funny how Google's copying us.
Google's copying us, says Kyle. I don't, maybe. It's possible. Hey, let's say hello to Dick D. Bartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer, and the Gizwiz. Hello, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing?
I am well indeed.
Good. Leo, I'm just getting rid of these nudes of the two of us here after.
Did you hear that call?
Yeah. You know, what were we thinking when we took these?
Dick, we were young. We needed the money. We needed the publicity. And frankly, it just felt good.
Yeah. I knew what I was thinking. I was thinking these are going to get me a show on TWiT that's never going to go off the air.
Well, so far, yeah, that's right. You got the pictures.
Yeah.
Every time I try to fire Dick, he says, but Leo, remember those pictures. What about the pictures? Dick is Mad Magazine's maddest writer, has been for many a moon, but he's also a gadget hound and collects great, unusual, interesting gadgets. You can find many of them at his webpage, gizwiz.biz, and he joins us each and every week to share some of those gadgets with us. What do you got for us this week, Dick?
Well, you know what, Leo, I'm going to start talking about a gadget that you can fill in because, first of all, I got a lot of emails saying, Dick, check out the air swimmers. So I got the Shark Air Swimmer, and this guy's 5 feet long, too big for Disneyland, and I loved it so much, I figured, I know a person who has a studio way bigger than Disneyland. So I sent it out to you.
Yeah.
And noticed some pictures on the web. Oh my word, he's there.
If you're watching on the video, this may be the most fun toy we have ever had in our studio. So describe these first, and I'll fill in with visuals for those of you watching at home at live.twit.tv.
There are 2 different air swimmers, and basically they're inflatable fish. There's the
helium
the
is not included, by the way. So we had to run over to the party store and get a tank of helium.
And that was one of the reasons I couldn't set mine up. So there's a clownfish, a very bright clownfish, but the more effective one is the shark. So you fill him with helium. He's almost 3 feet long, about almost 5 feet long.
It's big. And there is some assembly required. It's not an insignificant amount of assembly. And you also have to weight it just right because it needs to float. But it's doable.
It's doable, and if there's little or more helium, then you have to adjust the weight so he flies. But he moves through your space by flapping his tail,
just like a real shark.
And remote control up to about 40 feet.
Let him go out into the main studio because one of the things you need is a lot of space. In high ceilings, this looks better. You need a fairly large space. The other thing that I found out about this shark is it's line of sight. It's infrared for the remote control because that's how you do the tail. So you can't let it get too far away from you. You can't exactly hide with a shark.
No, and I believe it's up to 40 feet line of sight.
Yeah, try 15 or maybe 20. It's pretty easy to get out of the line of sight. On the other hand, this thing is cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Now, it's all over the web at prices anywhere from $40 to $80. Ours came from ThinkGeek, where they're selling it for $40, $39.95. And as I said, there's 2 different versions. The Shark is the scary and the more effective one.
Yeah.
But there's also a clownfish if you want to scare your child a little less. So they're called Air Swimmers RC, Air Swimmers Remote Control.
They are so cool. And, TWiT is a small podcast network. We don't have the budget of the Discovery Network. We don't have any video of sharks eating people. So we decided we're having our own Shark Week, but all it really is this balloon attacking people on the shows. But it's good.
That's good. That works.
It's Shark Week. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Leo? When you, that's the way to fire somebody. If the shark enters your area and touches you, you're fired.
I have to say, I've been having so much fun all week long having this shark swim into shows without the host knowing. And it's interesting to note, some hosts are good. They don't mind. They roll with it. Some don't. I won't name names, but there are those hosts who actually, one guy attacked it with a knife.
Really?
Yeah, so you might want to know ahead of time. Because it's an expensive toy if you get a hole plugged in it.
Yeah, exactly. Have a lot of spares if you.
I think this is great.
Or don't have knives at your party. Either one or the other.
Somebody said they looked on Amazon for air swimmers and they were able to find it for $35.
Oh, okay. There you
Do
go.
shop around. I mean, it's a fancy balloon with a kind of a cheesy motor. It does two things. You flap the tail back and forth, and then there's another motor that has it point up or down based on basically the weight of a little thing that slides back and forth on it. It's cool though, and it just don't bring it outside because it'll probably blow away. And
that's right. It's way too light to. It has to be inside with away from fans and air conditioners and any large air movement.
But
that's it. Air swimmers.
We had a lot of fun with it, Dick. I was really honored. Did you send this to us, or did Think Geek send it?
You know what? I was packing it up, and I thought, you know what? The people at Think Geek would probably be thrilled. And I called them. They said, Leo wants one? Hang on. It's on its way.
It's got more airtime on my network than anywhere. It really is a lot of fun. We've had a blast with it. Thank you, Dick. Dickie D is the host of the weekly Daily Gizwiz, Don't Ask. And he
has photos to prove it.
He has the photos to prove it. Some of them not so flattering. You'll find them, though, if I don't pay him, on gizwiz.biz. That's the website. And you can also play the What the Heck Is It contest, a chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine if you can figure out what these devices are. 12 autographed Mads for the correct answer, 24 for the wrong answer. As usual, Dick does everything upside down and backwards. Thank you, Dick. Well, stick around. We'll do the podcast in just a few minutes after the show.
I'll be here.
I hope you will. Be very boring to do it with by myself, but we will do it naked this time. Just just
like always,
like the good old days. Bob, is it Lansing, Michigan, or Landing, Michigan? Bob,
it's Lansing, Michigan.
That's what I thought. Welcome to the show. Thanks for calling.
Well, thank you, Leo. It's my first time.
Don't be scared. That's not a shark. It's just a balloon.
Okay. But I had a really odd experience with my Android device. I've got a Motorola Zoom.
Yeah.
And I had a software update last night, turned it on this morning, and I'm froze out of my homepage.
Yikes. Have you tried resetting it or turning it off and on again? I mean,
I did.
Yeah.
Let me finish the story, though.
Okay.
So, what happened was I said, well, gee, this is strange. I can't get to my homepage. And so I went to the internet and read something up on, this was update 3.2.1.
Yeah.
And I had read something about 3.2 that you had to turn your Motorola Zoom at a 90-degree angle.
And that fixed it?
And lo and behold, I was at a restaurant this morning. And
we're out of time. I hope it fixed it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.